like I said, we are going to look at an exam type question on target costing today. It's a very, very important question. If there will be any question in exams on target costing, it will be something similar to that, okay? Exam type question. So it's really important that you pay attention to the question that we're coming to do, Edwards Limited, okay? But before that, we're going to do a refresher. We're going to recap on some of the basics that we learned regarding target costing, okay? Some of the basics that we learned on target costing. So we're going to have a recap on that. And then next, we're going to look at high-low method. It's one of the methods that is used to separate mixed cost between its variable and fixed elements. Because the question requires us to do it. I'm sure some of you might have come across it before, but we're going to have a quick look at it. That's high-low method, okay? Then after that, we will answer Edwards Limited, and then that will be it for today. Okay, is that clear, everyone?
Yes, Mr. Fofana.
Yes, Mr. Fofana.
That was musical. Okay, so 1 second. Right, so let's have a recap on target costing. Can you tell us your understanding of what we have done on target costing last week? Okay, let's take it in turns. Just say anything relevant.
Mr. Fofana,
Now,
last class, I have learned that when you are to compare target costing with the other costing techniques like absorption and activity-based costing, we would see that target costing, like it is like you can determine your market price, that is your selling price.
okay.
Unlike the other costing techniques where there is no consideration for the market price of similar products and the cost is not challenged.
The cost is not challenged. Excellent, excellent. Yes, that's a valid point. Yes. Anyone else?
Mr. Fofana,
No.
we also learned that target costing is the management techniques. It's a technique that management used to determine cost by the market condition.
Okay. Yes. So what management does is it tries to look at how its cost structure is going to look like in terms of the products that's being produced compared to the market price. Okay, the market selling price. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and also to identify the selling price and the profit margin that is required for a product.
Okay. So very valid points. Yes. So that means in target costing, we already determine even before production our target profit and our target selling price, and of course our target cost. So it's not only the target cost that we look for when we are doing our target costing, but in fact we look for our target cost, we look for our target profit, and also our target selling price. So to be honest with you, target costing is very, very, very important. Okay. Any other points?
Yes, I've also learned two methods by which management can use to bridge the gap between the target cost and the estimated cost, which is the Kaizen costing and the value engineering.
Very good, very good, very good, very good. Exactly, exactly. So in value engineering, for example, how do we go about bridging the gap between the target cost and the estimated cost using either the ABC or the absorption costing? How do we go about it? Amadou, you said valid point, but anyone else who can, answer that question, just for us to refresh?
What was the question?
The question was, Amadou said that he has learned two methods during last class. That was value engineering and Bayesian costing. Okay, even though we've not discussed Bayesian costing that much, but those are two methods whereby you can reduce the gap between the target cost and the estimated cost. So my question is, how do you go about reducing the gap using value engineering?
It is by substituting like expensive products with less expensive products to reduce the cost of the product actually and improve the quality of the product.
Very good. That's one method. That's one method. Another method of bridging the gap.
Mr. Vawana, you can also bridge the gap like by cutting the number of units. But when cutting the number of units, you have to be careful of your quality.
Exactly. So cutting the number of units you're talking about is for example, the material quantity. Okay. And then you can do that, of course, by ensuring that the material inputs are of quality. Okay. If material inputs are quality, you can always reduce the number of quantity that can go into production. Because once the materials meet the quality standard, there will be less waste compared to a situation whereby you produce with inferior materials. Okay, that's a valid point as well. So what other methods? Of course, we can look at the specification. Like the example I gave you during last class, if you are a company that is into producing, let's say, desks, okay, if your current production modus operandi is to produce desks with, let's say, aluminum parts, okay, you could look at it, after doing your market research, you could decide maybe I could use plywood as my, tabletops, okay? So the plywood can substitute the aluminum top, okay? Provided quality will not reduce, because the reason why customers buy your product is because of quality, is because of the benefits they're going to derive from the product. Okay, so that's really, really important. Okay, so I think that's a very good recap. I can see that you really understand the concepts. Okay, so we will proceed. We'll proceed. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at our target costing question. Okay, which is Edwards Company Limited. Okay, so this question, I guess all of you should have it. Okay, all of you should have it, isn't it? Okay, Edwards Company Limited. It was given on the handout that was given, I think, from the 2 classes ago or so. The handout that has got target costing on it. So this exam question is on it. Okay, so it's at the back of it. Please refer to it so that we can proceed. I'm going to read the question, but when we are answering, we cannot project it because we cannot project 2 screens at the same time. Okay, are we together? Can we proceed?
Yes, Mr. Vawana, we can proceed. We are on the question.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, so I'm going to read. It says, Edwards Company assembles and sells many types of radio. It is considering extending its product range to include the digital radios. These radios produce a better sound quality than traditional radios and have a large number of potential additional features not possible with previous technologies. Station scanning, more choice, one-touch toning, station identification text, and song identification text, etc. A radio is produced by assembly workers assembling a variety of components. Production overheads are currently absorbed into fixed cost, sorry, into product cost on an assembly labor hour basis. Edwards Company is considering a target costing approach for its new digital radio product. Okay? You are required to briefly describe the target costing process that Edwards Company should undertake, 5 marks. B, explain the benefits to Edwards Company of adopting a target costing approach at such an early stage in the production development process, 5 marks. Assuming a cost gap was identified in the process, outline possible steps Edwards Company should take to reduce the gap. Okay, so this is the first part of the question. And then the second part of the question is the calculation part. Okay, so first we're going to deal with the first part, which is the theory part. Okay, we're going to discuss it. The model answer is already given on this handout. Sorry, on these slides. Okay, the model answer is already given. So, but we're going to discuss, and we proceed to the written one, the ones that accountants like. Accountants like only number crunching, yeah? Numbers, numbers, numbers. Okay, so when you look at this question, what business are they into at the moment? And what are they aspiring to go into? What are they into at the moment?
I think they're into selling traditional radios.
They're into selling?
They're into selling like traditional radios, and they want to go in for digital radios.
Exactly, exactly. So at the moment, they are producing and selling traditional radios, okay? But then because of modernization, the world is moving ahead to digital. They want to go into production of digital radios, okay? So, and what's their current costing regime? What costing regime are they using currently? And what are they aspiring to go into? Okay, it says that a radio is produced by assembly workers assembling a variety of components. Production overheads are currently absorbed into product cost on an assembly hour basis. So what costing technique are they using at the moment?
They are using traditional costing.
Which one?
Absorption costing.
Absorption costing, okay, absorption costing, because it has already told us that fixed production overheads are absorbed using labor hours. So that tells you that they are into absorption costing at the moment, okay? So they're into absorption costing and they're aiming to go for target costing, okay? So the first question says, briefly describe the target cost process that Edwards Company should undertake. So what are some of the processes that they're supposed to undertake in order to introduce a target costing regime?
Mr. Fofana, they can go in for a market research.
Okay. So the first thing they need to do is to undergo a market research. So how will the market research look like?
Research and
Mr.
development,
Fofana, I think
if they have to go, you are right in saying that they need to go and start the target costing processes by first doing what? A market research. So in that market research, what are they going to do? What are the specifics of that market research?
Hello, like Mr. Fofana, they are conducting.
they have to understand that.
in that market research, they have
The aim of the research should be like determining the price of the digital radio.
The digital radio, exactly. So the
Yes.
aim of the market research should be to determine the market price of similar digital radios, because they have not gone into digital, they have not gone into production of digital radios first, they have not gone into it. So they are at the design stage. So because they are on the design stage, they should go and do market research, go to the market and look for digital radios, how their specifications look like, how much are they being sold, at different places. Okay, so that's the first thing they should do. So what should be the second step? After they have concluded on their market research, so they will use an average market price according to what data they were able to collect. So they will use an average market price as their target selling price, isn't it? So after that stage, what is next?
Then they should determine their desired
Hello,
profit
Mr.
margin.
Fofana. I think after connecting the market research, after conducting the market research, and the various features and selling, then you need to the next step is to determine the price at which you desire to sell your product.
Okay, so your target selling price. So the determination of target selling price. So how is that target price selling price determination done? How is it done? How do you determine
Since you
your
have done the market research, you know the various. Since you have done your market research, you know the various cost of the substitute, like your competitors. You will know their various prices, so you can use that and determine your price to be in the safe side.
Your average, yes. So that's fine. That's the first stage. We are talking about the target profit, isn't it? The target profit margin we're going to use in our production. So what I'm saying is, how do you determine that that target profit?
Mr. Fofana.
You need to establish a profit margin.
Yes, Binta, go ahead. Oh, Binta is off. Mariama, go ahead.
You need to make a comparison based on the research that you have made in the market, and also the cost that you want to incur in dealing with the new product that you want to go in for.
No, when you look at it, already you've done your research. You've gone to a lot of different places that are already into production of digital radio. You already got an average price. The next step, like we said, is to determine a target profit. So my question is, how do you determine that target profit?
Mr. Fuma.
Yes, Captain.
Yeah, I think like the target profit will be based on the return that the company wants, the return of the company.
Exactly. So it depends on the company's policy. Okay, it depends on the organization's profit policy. Okay, and this is usually stipulated on the organization's financial manual and other board documents. So it might be determined at strategic level. For example, the board might be the one to come up with the, if you make any product, or if you make certain categories of product, this is the margin or the markup that you need to add on top of it and stuff like that. Okay, so excellent. That was a good one. So you don't just determine your target profit like that, but it has to have a basis, and the basis will always be according to the organization's policy. Okay, so excellent. So after determining the target profit, what's the third stage? So this question, this part of the question also has a very good revision point for us, isn't it? Okay. So what's the third point? What do we do next?
So Fofana.
Yes, Bintu. Bintu, sorry.
We calculate the target cost.
Okay, we calculate the target cost. Okay. Now that we have got two parts of the two missing parts of the jigsaw puzzle, what is left is the last part. The last part is the target cost. So because we already have our target profit, we already have our target selling price, then the next thing is to find our target cost. That's a simple one. The first two are the ones that are complicated, especially the first one, because the second one, which is the target profit, will always be stipulated in organizations' manuals. Okay? So the third stage will only be to calculate your target cost. And how do you calculate the target cost?
Mr. Fofana?
Yes.
It's the selling price minus the profit margin.
Okay, the selling price that we have determined, the average selling price that is prevalent in the market is what we're going to use. We deduct that from our target profit so that we'll get our target cost. Excellent. And what's the fourth stage? What's the fourth stage?
The first stage is
If
to
you
use
have
the
your
gap.
target cost
To determine
already,
Dembo, yeah, Demba Baji, go ahead. Go ahead, Demba. You said the first stage is what?
To reduce the gap.
To reduce the gap. Okay? To reduce the gap.
Yes. Or to close the gap.
Is it going to be reducing the gap between the train and the platform?
No, between the two, the target profit and the target cost.
Between the target profit and the target cost. Hey, do you
Yes.
agree with Demba? Do you agree with Demba, class? Do you agree with him?
No, it is the estimated cost and the target cost.
Aha, it's the estimated cost and the target cost. Okay, so in this case, how are we going to get the estimated cost? The estimated cost will be the cost that we're going to calculate using our costing technique, which is absorption costing, and our target cost. Then take note of that. Okay, is the estimated cost and the target cost. That will give you your gap. Okay, so in this stage 4, what and what should we do? What and what should we do? What techniques should we use in our last stage, in our stage 4, reducing the gap?
you can
By
use
using
value engineering.
Okay. We can use value engineering, or we can use casing costing. Okay, casing costing actually is all about excellence. You know, it's costing excellence. It's about costing technique whereby you monitor your continuous improvement of the product. Okay, continuous reduction of cost and of course improvement. So it goes together. You know, these are Japanese techniques which are usually used by the rest of the world. Okay, there are concepts that comes from Asia, and stuff. So casing costing is about continuous improvement and continuous reduction cost as you go along your production processes. Okay, so the last stage, which is bridging the gap between the target cost and our estimated cost, you have to employ casing costing, you have to employ value engineering. Okay, how do you remove the gap? You of course look at your production processes. If there are some defects in your production processes, the processes that don't add any value, you remove them, because once you remove them, you're going to reduce cost. Okay, you look at the specification of the product. If there are some additional specifications which are unnecessary, you remove them, then you reduce cost. Okay, you look at the material input of the product. If the material input is, if there are some aspects of it that are unnecessary, you scrap them, then you will save cost. Okay, you look at the labor also. For example, if it is a situation whereby you don't need that much quality of labor. For example, if it's like, let's say our example of production of desks, you don't have to use, let's say, 4 men or qualified people to do the how to call it to do be joined and stuff like that. So if there are, managers or middle staff or at least some staff that are experienced but don't have that managerial load, you can use them, and then you'll save cost. Because if you use a foreman or an expert, okay, you're going to pay more, isn't it? So, but if you use a junior staff, or maybe a middle level staff, then you're going to save some cost. But that is provided that middle level staff or junior staff can be able to do it efficiently. That's really, really important. Okay. So these are some of the processes that you can, employ in order to reduce the cost gap to zero. Okay. Because if you don't remove the cost gap, then there's no point for you to do your target costing. Okay. Is that clear? Okay, so I think the A part, we've answered it adequately. What is important is when you are answering theory questions relating to cases, you always make sure you make reference to the case. Okay, this case is about digital radio, so always make sure you make reference to digital radio scenario as it is mentioned here. Okay, that's really important. Don't just cogitate, and reproduce the notes that you are able to learn in the steps that you need to follow in target costing. Okay, if you produce that without making any reference to the case, the marks you will get will definitely be very little. Okay, so this is the way you answer case study questions. Okay, so if there are no questions or contributions, shall we move to the B part? Yes.
Can you please go back, please, to what you were explaining?
Okay, I go back to what?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello? Mr. Pofan?
Yes, Mary.
Yes, can you please go back to what you were explaining? Because I left the meeting because of my connection, not long ago.
Because of your connection, okay. Like we were just looking at the A part of this question, the Edwards Company Limited. So this A part is only asking us to state the various processes that we will undergo in order to successfully implement a target costing regime. Okay, we have discussed them. The processes the stages are four. First, we determine, first we undergo a market research. The purpose of that is to determine a target selling price. The second point is we have to determine our target profit. Okay, we said in order to determine the target profit, we have to make reference to the organization's policies in terms of determination of profit. Okay, so that will usually be stipulated on the financial manual of the organization. Okay, the third stage was to calculate our target cost. So now that we've got our target selling price in the first stage, our target profit in the second stage. So on the third stage, we deduct the profit from the selling price to arrive at our target cost. Then the fourth stage will be bridging the gap between our estimated cost and our target cost. So in order to do that, we say we must employ techniques like value engineering, techniques like KCN costing. Okay, so that's what we have just been talking about. So my last point on that was that if you are answering questions like this, don't just reproduce what you learn on the notes. That's by stating those points, the 4 points, but also relate them to the case. Okay. A typical example is when we were talking about the market research. We said if you're going to do the market research, you're going to look for the digital radio market. Okay, so always make a reference to the case as much as possible. Is that clear now, Marie?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, good. So we go to the B part. The B part says, explain the benefits to Edwards Company of adopting a target costing approach at such an early stage in the production development process. Okay, so we know, of course, that target costing can only be applicable at the design stage of the product. You don't produce, you don't wait until you produce, then you want to use target costing. You're just wasting your time. Okay, target costing is all about determining the target cost at the design stage of the product. Okay, so what are some of the benefits that any company could get by using target costing? But our emphasis here is on Edwards Company Limited. The benefits are many, isn't it? So this one is talking about the benefits of target costing, but with particular reference to Edwards Company Limited. Okay, can we discuss them? If you determine your target costs, are you going to have any issues when it comes to cost reduction in the future? Are you going to have any issues?
No.
No, because already.
No, you don't have any.
Yes, because already you have, in fact, you have already gone ahead. You have already done your cost reduction, because when you calculated your target cost, you looked at your estimated cost. You try to reduce the gap, because if you don't do that, then there's no point doing your target costing, because you have to produce according to your target cost. So in order to do that, you must reduce your gap, your cost gap. Okay. So what else? What are some of the benefits of target costing to Edwards Company?
Can you say it would also give the company a financial direction to attain a specific price?
A financial direction in order to attain a specific price? Yes. Because by the use of target costing, you have done your research properly, you'll have done your market research properly, and then you already arrive at a conclusive price that you're going to use to sell your products once they are ready. Yes, that's true. Okay, what else?
Hello, Mr. Fofana. Like target costing is mostly captured in the design stage, right? So
yes.
You can see in the design stage, before the end of the product, in the design stage, you can factor out all the, in case you have a cost gap, things you need to reduce, or techniques to use to reduce the cost before the final production.
Exactly. Yes. So you'll have done all that, and you have cleared with any issues with that. So that's right. So, but one thing you've not said, which is very, very important, very important benefit of target costing. Let me ask you this question: if you employ,
I think with that your profit is guaranteed.
There you go, guaranteed profit. Period. You have what? A guaranteed profit, because you've already determined your profit even before going for production. Okay, so there is guaranteed profit. Okay, so that's really, really, really important. Okay, what else can we think about? Of course, as a result of the demand for your product, because your product will definitely be demanded. Can you compare it to a situation whereby you use absorption costing? If you use absorption costing, what do you do to your selling price? You determine your selling price blindly, because you don't even know what prevails in the market. Understand? So when you use target costing, okay, Edwards Company Limited can be able to produce digital radios that will be demanded in the market like hotcakes, because already they have done their homework. They know that company A is selling digital radios, let's say for 1,500. Company B is selling it for 1,200. Company C is selling it for 1,800. So when we produce, we'll use an average of them. Let's say we're going to sell 1,100. Are the products not going to be demanded? Certainly, they will be demanded. Okay? So there is guaranteed turnover, and there is guaranteed profit. Okay? There is going to be guaranteed sales of your products, and as a result of those guaranteed sales, it will bring about profitability to the organization. Okay? Very, very important. Okay, good. Yes.
Mr. Bomana, but is the profit really guaranteed? I think it is the desired profit actually, because you can have some external factors that might come into play that will
There you go.
you
This is all forecasting, but well, when I say guaranteed, because once the products are demanded in the market, once they go to the market, naturally they will be sold for the price that you have already determined. And once they've been sold, and definitely they will be sold, because I mean already you've done your research. Once they are sold, you definitely get the. Like you said, well, you're right. It's all forecasting. Thinking ahead. What's going to happen in the future. So there may be some other unknowns that may happen. You're right in saying that. But there will be at least 80 to 90%. Guaranteed that whatever products you produce, especially if they meet the required quality, they will be demanded, and there will be guaranteed sales. There will be guaranteed profit. Okay, but the other factors may crop up, like you said. That's true. Okay. Right. So, any more comments before we move to the C part?
Okay, Mr. Fofana, my network was breaking.
Nyako, I hope you are not calling whilst you are in Quinala.
No, my network was breaking.
Okay, I thought you are in Kiang when you are doing it. I'm not a Badibunka, but the Badibunkas will attack you on that, okay? Or the network in Kiang is good now, isn't it?
No,
Because you have electricity
I
now.
think the benefit of adopting target cost, it has an advantage over ABC and traditional. Okay, target costing, it has an advantage over ABC and traditional costing in terms of determining the market price or the selling price.
Okay, very good. That's true. That's one advantage. One benefit of target costing over all other costing techniques is the only costing technique that puts the feature into consideration, that puts the market into consideration. So that itself is so you have so many of them, to be honest. You have so many of them. Okay, good. Okay, any more before we go to the last part? C. Sorry, not the last part. The C part. Yes, Lamle.
Based on what you just explained before Nyako come in, then it means that the company will have a competitive advantage over their
competitors. Yes.
Sorry, my network was breaking. It means that the company will have a competitive advantage over their competitors because they have already done the market research, know all their prices, and they will come up with the best price to overcome them in the market.
Okay, that's true. That's true. Okay, Agiruyu is saying that it ensures better decision from a more accurate and realistic assessment of revenues and costs. True. Decision making becomes very efficient as well because already consultations have been done at all levels. That's why target costing is a collaborative effort. It's not only done by production department, but it's done by all other departments that partake in the production of okay. So that's a good one. Bless is saying it allows you to analyze the best way to make or acquire products at the lowest cost. Yes, because by doing your market research and by determining your target price, when you are doing your cost gap reduction, it will allow you to how to call it to produce at the best cost possible. Okay, so that's true. Okay, so I think we can go to the C part. It looks like a lot of you are understanding the concept. I'm really happy. Please let's make sure we apply this, in real life scenarios. Okay, let's apply it. That's the only way you can you can be able to benefit from all these things that we are learning. Mind you, don't be how to call it, an old accountant. An old accountant meaning someone who will learn concepts but only will learn for the purpose of passing exams. No, these things are live. They are existing. You're seeing them on a daily basis. Okay, you can apply target costing in your own situation. You can apply it by helping small businesses. You can apply it, in a workplace, being it a production organization, being it a service-oriented organization. You can apply it everywhere. Okay, it's really, really important. Okay, whether it's a market a market lady selling vegetable, or somebody who is selling salted peanuts on the street corner, and stuff like that. We could use them. We could use them. Okay, so it's really, really important that you understand the concept. And the only way you can use them is only when you understand the concepts, not memorizing them. Okay, when you understand them, that's when you can be able to apply it. And it's going to be very, very useful for you as an accountant. Okay? So we look at the C part. The C part says, assuming a cost gap was identified in the process, outline possible steps Edwards Company could take to reduce this gap. Okay? Can someone help? First, we know that a cost gap. What is a cost gap? I'm asking this question again. What's a cost gap? Hello, class. Abdullah Bayo, are you with us? Abdullah Bayo? Abdullah Kinte.
Yes, Mr. Fofana.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I think.
Amadou, yes. Amadou, go ahead.
Yes, I think cost gap is the difference between the estimated cost and the target cost.
Okay, yes. Estimated cost and the target cost. Okay, estimated cost using our traditional costing method and our target cost. Correct. Yes. So, what are the steps that we should undergo in order to reduce this gap? But this work is particular reference to Edwards Company Limited. Okay, so we're going to start at the design stage of the radio. Okay, let's say they want to design this digital radio in such a way that the specification is going to match that of the current digital radios in the market. Okay, so what technique are we going to use to ensure that the cost cap is reduced regarding the specification? You know what I mean by this specification, yeah?
Yeah, I think the specification means that, like, what they are into, like moving from a traditional radio to a modern radio.
Yes. So for example, the specification will include the radio to have a button for tuning, the radio to have the volume in a particular way, the radio to have either a plastic, outing, or a metal one, and stuff like that. So these are some of the specifications. So your specification will be drawn. So you have to match that specification to the current specifications that are in the market. If you think your own specifications are too exorbitant, okay, for example, in the market, the outside of the radio was coated with plastic and stuff, your own specification was coated with, let's say, iron or something like that, okay, gold plated and stuff. So you look at those specifications, compare, and then try to reduce your specification or try to improve on your specification in such a way that you reduce cost on that. Okay, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect will be in terms of the material count. Okay, let's say the radio, when you look at the question, it's talking about wiring and so on and so forth. So let's say there is a particular type of wiring that your specification is saying, okay? But when you compare it to what prevails in the market, okay, it has got, what prevails in the market is more inferior, okay? So you could go for a high quality one. The advantage you will have in that will be your input, your material input will be lower, okay? It will be lower because there will be less waste, okay? Waste will be less, okay? So what's another thing that you can reduce your gap? What other process can you undergo in terms of Edwards Company Limited that you can employ to reduce the gap?
Okay.
Mr. Fowler.
Yes.
Yeah, like you can also substitute the expensive components of the digital radio with cheaper ones.
With cheaper ones, yes. Example? Give me examples. Give me at least one example, please.
Like the example could be the body of the radio. Like you say, like in the market they are using wood. Let's say plastic.
Yes.
But now the Edward company, like they decided to use metal. So metal could be expensive, so they can just change it. Yeah, substitute it to plastic.
Very good. Very good. Yes. Another one. What about labor when it comes to labor cost? Because labor cost is going to be employed, isn't it? Because you're going to pay staff who are going to be assembling the radio parts. You know, look at the production process they are talking about here. So what they do is these radios produce a better sound quality. Okay, a radio is produced by assembly workers. Look at it. There is special emphasis on assembly workers. So you could get points by mentioning that in your cost gap reduction. Okay, by assembly workers. Okay, they say a radio is produced by assembly workers assembling a variety of components. Okay, production overheads are currently absorbed using da. Okay, so it's talking about assembly workers. So how can you reduce labor costs relating to assembly workers? How can you? This is part of part C, reducing the cost gap.
With that, Mr. Fofana, as they are progressing from a traditional to a modern, I think the issue with assembly workers is that when they are moving to modern production, they will need an automation. So they don't need much workers as before. So it's all automated and it's
Exactly. Yes. So in that, there will be a couple of things to consider. First, since it's going to be automated from traditional radio to digital radio, you need good machines that can be able to do that. So if you use machines that are inefficient, it's going to be expensive. Okay, so that's one aspect. The other aspect is if you could substitute the assembly workers, you know, highly qualified assembly workers with, let's say, you know, middle managers, you know, you could substitute them, you know, because you are at the design stage. So you could decide which assembly workers are going to work on this. Okay, that's another point. The other point is you should make sure the assembly is done during working hours, because it's going to be expensive when it's outside working hours. Why? Because you may pay overtime, and usually overtime is paid at premium. You understand? In the West, you know, for example, if you work for some institutions on a Sunday, you pay time and a half. Okay. In some companies, if you pay, if you work on days that are regarded as bank holidays or public holidays, you paid either time and a half or double time. You know, I remembered when I was in the UK, I don't usually enjoy any Christmas or whatever, because I always rush to get some hours to work on Christmas Day Boxing Day and New Year's Day, because the company I used to work for, they pay double time. So if, for example, your hourly rate is £10, they'll give you £20 an hour. So so you need to factor in all those costs so that you can be able to ensure that these assembly workers, they work only during their normal time, not overtime or not on a weekend. Okay, so all this, so efficient. Can you see what you do? You do a lot of work at the design stage. Okay. So, right. Any question or contribution before we move to the part D? Any question? Is Mary with us today? We don't have any timekeeper today.